buoy wasn't supposed to be there. I knew that before I even checked the chart. I'd been maintaining the navigation markers on Grayling Lake for almost 3 years, long enough to recognize when something was off at a glance. The buoys followed strict coordinates, logged down to the decimal. They didn't wander. They didn't improvise. This one sat dead center in open water, its faded orange shell bobbing gently in the fog, light blinking a slow, patient red. According to my tablet, buoy C-17 was supposed to be nearly half a mile east, marking a shallow rock shelf near the northern channel. I zoomed in, refreshed the map, checked yesterday's maintenance log. Same coordinates, same placement. No storms overnight, no reported boat strikes. I throttled down and drifted closer. The lake was unusually calm, no chop, no current tugging at the hull. When I reached the buoy, I leaned over the side and grabbed the line. The anchor chain was taut, heavy, properly set. Whoever dropped it last had done their job right. I logged the discrepancy, reset the GPS tag, and re-anchored it where it belonged. The next morning, C-17 was back in the same spot. Same fog, same water, same slow red blink, floating patiently over water so deep our depth finders usually gave up trying to measure it. That was the first time I felt it, that subtle pressure in my chest, like the lake was holding its breath, and like it was waiting for something to move again. After the third time C-17 reset itself, I stopped calling it a drift. Currents don't move in straight lines, and they don't undo perfectly set anchors. Wind doesn't drag heavy chain backward across the lakebed without leaving scrape marks, and nothing natural returns to the exact same coordinates within a margin of inches. I started keeping my own notes, separate from the official logs. Time of reset, weather conditions, water temperature. Every time I moved the buoy, it stayed put until sunset. Sometime between nightfall and dawn, it slid back to its original position. Always the same patch of open water. I tried anchoring it deeper. I swapped chains. I even left it unlit one night just to see if the light was attracting boat traffic. Didn't matter. The first time I mentioned it to another tech, he went quiet. Not confused, uneasy. "We don't mess with that one after dark," he said, eyes fixed on the lake instead of me. I asked, why? He shrugged. "Because it comes back." That was the extent of it. No explanation, no curiosity, just acceptance. A week later, I ran sonar beneath C-17 for the first time. The return took longer than expected, long enough that I thought the unit had frozen. Then the screen bloomed with a shadow far larger than any rock formation on the charts. It wasn't resting on the lakebed. It was hanging there, suspended beneath the buoy, as if the marker wasn't warning boats away from something below, but pointing at it. I told myself the sonar return was a glitch. Grayling Lake was deep, deeper than most recreational charts admitted, and older equipment didn't always handle sudden depth changes well. So the next morning, I went back out alone with a calibrated unit and dropped the transducer directly beneath C-17. The lake swallowed the signal. The ping traveled down longer than physics allowed, stretching into a low hum that vibrated through the deck plates. When the return finally came, the shape reappeared on the screen, broader this time, more defined. It wasn't flat like a rock shelf. It curved. Slowly. I adjusted the gain. The mass rotated, not drifting with the water, but turning in place as though it were aware of the signal touching it. That was when I felt it through the hull. A deep, rhythmic vibration, steady enough to count. Not sound exactly. Pressure. The kind you feel standing too close to heavy machinery. The buoy began to rock in time with it. Not from waves. There were none. Each gentle dip matched the pulse below, the chain tightening and relaxing like a measured breath. My sonar screen flickered. For half a second, the mass rose, just enough to shorten the return time before vanishing entirely. The water above it remained smooth, unbroken. The vibration stopped. The buoy stilled. And for the first time since I'd taken the job, the lake felt less like open water and more like a closed lid. I didn't go back out on the water the next day. Instead, I pulled every archived maintenance log I could find. Some of them scanned so poorly the text blurred into gray smears. Grayling Lake had been dredged, surveyed, and remapped more times than most bodies of water its size. Depth inconsistencies were common. Disappearances were not. The first report dated back nearly 50 years, a fishing charter that capsized in calm weather. No wreckage recovered, no bodies. The lake had simply closed over them. Then there were the recreational boaters, small numbers, spaced years apart. Engines stalling, radios cutting out, last known coordinates clustering in the same open water area, right where C-17 liked to sit. One log stopped me cold. It wasn't labeled as a buoy at all. The entry described it as a containment marker, deployed after an unsuccessful neutralization attempt. No species name, no measurements, just instructions. Do not relocate after dusk. Do not sever the chain. If the marker moves, restore position before nightfall. I tracked down my former supervisor, a man who'd retired early and never came back to the lake. When I asked about C-17, he sighed like someone answering a question he'd been hoping never to hear again. "It's not there to warn boats," he said. "It's there to tell it where it's allowed to be." I asked what it was. He shook his head. "Doesn't matter. The chain isn't for stability. It's a reminder." Outside, the weather report showed fog rolling in early, and my radio crackled with a single instruction. Final check on C-17 before nightfall. The fog hit faster than forecast. By the time I cleared the marina, the shoreline was already dissolving into gray. Sound carried strangely across the water. Engine noise felt muted, like it was being absorbed instead of echoed. My radio crackled with static every time I tried to check in. C-17's light cut through the fog in uneven pulses, no longer the steady red blink I was used to. It dimmed, brightened, then dimmed again like it was struggling to stay awake. When I reached it, I noticed the first real problem. The anchor chain wasn't tight. It sagged into the water at an angle, slack where it should have been rigid. I leaned over the side and pulled. The chain shifted easily, links sliding upward from below with slow, deliberate resistance. The vibration started again, stronger this time. Tools rattled in their mounts. A wrench slid across the deck and clanged softly against the railing. The water around the buoy began to move in wide, gentle circles, though the air was completely still. Then the buoy drifted. Not away, toward me. The distance closed by inches, then feet, the chain drawing in as if something below was reeling it upward. I threw the engine into gear. Nothing happened. The motor coughed once and died, leaving me adrift in the fog directly above the place the lake had marked. And beneath me, something pulled again. When the engine died, the lake went silent. Not quiet, silent. The vibration vanished. The water stilled, and even the buoy stopped rocking. It felt staged, like everything was waiting for my reaction. I leaned over the rail. The surface below the boat didn't ripple. It bulged. Water rose in a smooth, rounded swell stretching upward without breaking, as if something massive were pressing against it from beneath. The lake's skin held, glossy and tense, reflecting the buoy's red light in warped streaks. The anchor chain went taut again, then slackened completely. My sonar came alive on its own. Static flooded the speaker, resolving slowly into sound. Not words at first, just layered noise, overlapping fragments of radio chatter I recognized from archived distress calls. Voices I'd logged, calls that ended without resolution. Then one voice came through clearly, calm and familiar. "Station, do you read?" It was my own. The water surged. The buoy snapped downward, chains screaming as it was yanked free and dragged under in a violent spiral. The swell collapsed, sending waves slapping against the hull. I didn't think. I grabbed the emergency knife and cut the remaining line, tying me to the marker. The boat lurched free as something massive dove back into the depths, pulling the buoy with it. The engine sputtered, then caught. I never looked back as I fled the fog, the red light vanishing beneath the water behind me. I quit 2 weeks later. No exit interview, no follow-up questions. Just a form email confirming my resignation and a reminder to return my equipment. Grayling Lake went on without me. Boats launched, buoys blinked. Nothing else was officially wrong. I tried not to think about what I'd heard through the sonar speaker, about how easily the lake had borrowed my voice. A month after I left, curiosity got the better of me. I checked the public navigation charts online, something I told myself I'd never do again. There was a new buoy listed. No fanfare, no explanation, just a fresh marker added to the system labeled as a hazard location. Its coordinates sat in open water, far from any shelf or channel, exactly where my engine had failed. The marker number was different, but the notes were familiar. Do not relocate. Do not service after dusk. Beneath that, in smaller text, was a reference, ID. It wasn't a rock formation. It wasn't debris. It was my boat. I closed the chart and shut my laptop, finally understanding the truth. Grayling Lake had been teaching us all along. The buoys don't warn you away from danger. They show you where the lake has already been fed. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to like the video. It helps more than you think. And if you're new here, subscribe to Campfire Horror Stories for more long-form horror set in isolated places, strange jobs, and locations that don't let go of what they take. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Would you have stayed on the water that night or cut the line sooner? Because some lakes don't hide what they are. They mark it. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you in the next story.